Welcome to Down the Garden Path. I'm your host, Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and plant lover. I enjoy discussing down-to-earth tips and advice to help you seasonally manage your garden and landscape. And I also aim to bring you interesting and relevant topics to educate you all about the landscaping and horticultural industry. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Down the Garden Path. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm very excited to have Aaron Deacon here, welcoming him back to Down the Garden Path. He is a returning guest. We first learned about Aaron and his business BIOS Nutrients in 2022, a company that Aaron started as he learned more about what was happening in our soils and what the environment was doing to them. So welcome back to the show, Aaron.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Appreciate it. So glad to be back.
Yeah, and lots has happened in the last 3 years.
Yeah, ton has changed big time. So lots of new knowledge about plants growing, lots of new products, which has been cool too, to explore, and a new business partnership, which is awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, let's just touch, because I want our listeners to go back and listen to that original episode. But for new listeners, just touch on, how all this kind of started for you.
For sure. Like the business in general, or
yeah. Or just your yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll kind of go back to the basics. So this business started about 5 years ago, it's been now, which is wild. And it started when I ended up getting laid off from my job when COVID hit. And I'd been making my own fertilizers and pesticides for a while at that point for growing cannabis. I had a cannabis license and wanted to make my own products. So just started exploring fermentation and different ways to make fertilizers and pesticides and fell in love with it. It was a ton of fun to just ferment different things and gave me a better understanding of how soil works, how plants thrive, how our body is like a fertilizer machine, and it just translates directly to plants and soil. So yeah, just a really cool understanding of how the body works, how nature works, and then always wanted to make my own products and sell them. So took that as the opportunity to kind of start selling the products and packaging them, and just expanded from there. So kind of used everything I was using before, the dry fertilizer, the fermented wheat bran, or bokashi is another word for it. The probiotics, or EM1, is another name for it too. So it kind of relates back to Korean natural farming. And then I was using yucca extract as a surfactant. So I brought that on. And now we've just kind of kept expanding that lineup. So that's where it started, was just wanting to make natural products, educate people on how soil works and how you can use natural products effectively. And that education just kind of keeps growing.
Excellent. Well, that is great. I love how you turned something into, that you knew your calling was to sell, like, to be an entrepreneur and but that you found this real niche industry.
For sure.
And I think of houseplants. So primarily houseplants right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of separated now. Like I was doing pretty much houseplants only, and now it's moving more into gardening and commercial growing, especially with the new liquid fertilizer that we're doing, the food waste one. So yeah, like the goal has always been, how do we start small and educate people on a small scale, which was with houseplants, because there wasn't a ton of knowledge around using natural products, more so in the cannabis industry. But now it's kind of like, how do we, translate this now to people with gardens, which has been a natural transition, because a lot of people that started growing houseplants in COVID are now like, I want to grow my own food. I love growing plants, so why not take this next step? So it kind of grows with them, which is nice. And now with the new liquid fertilizer we're making, it's already commercially registered. So we can start selling that to people growing commercial fruits and vegetables. So yeah, it kind of opens a lot of new doors for us.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. Yes, I had that down to talk to you about outside of the house plant. If we just go back to so your first product, and I still have a package. I have some packages here.
Yeah, funny, yeah.
And how they worked, because I think that was that when you talk about fermenting, right, that it was unusual as far as a fertilizer goes. So for new listeners, do you want to speak about how you figured out that was the best way to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of diving through forums and trying to understand, like, how do you make natural fertilizers? I had no idea. I could not wrap my head around ways of doing it. And when I discovered Korean natural farming, it's really opened my eyes up to how you can pull nutrients from anything. So the idea of the fermented fertilizer was actually from Bokashi. They've been making it for hundreds, if not thousands of years in Korea already, as a medium for adding beneficial microbes to soil and organic matter. And this form of organic matter is either wheat bran or rice bran. Some type of bran is what you use.
Really? Okay.
But
And we
organic
eat
matter
that
is,
too, right?
we
Like
do,
that's
yeah.
something, it's not new.
No, exactly. So everything's organic matter, whether it's a tomato falling on the ground and decomposing, or an animal dying and the bones being brought down into the soil as a form of calcium. So everything that dies is just organic matter returning back to soil. So that's kind of the concept of this fertilizer and what we're trying to do. And when things die in nature, they're decomposed by bacteria and fungi and insects. So it's the exact same when you ferment. You're just using bacteria and fungi to digest whatever organic matter you're adding to it, and it
Mhm.
releases the nutrients into a liquid form generally, or you can do it as a dry form too. So
Okay.
it's kind of just replicating with the dry fertilizer the natural decomposition of our planet and
Right.
how that translates into new healthy soil and returning the nutrients from that organic matter back to the soil, just
Okay.
because our bodies are full of nutrients to thrive. When a plant grows, it takes up nutrients in the soil to stay healthy, and then when it dies, it returns them back into the soil. So that's just how plants have evolved for millions of
Right.
years. And with synthetic fertilizers, we've kind of cut that out of the equation.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to replicate now with the original fertilizer that we had.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the bran wasn't necessarily part of the like the nutrients, but it helped the nutrients grow and to be taken up by the plants. Is that
Yeah, so that's kind
correct?
of, yeah, exactly. So it's a
Okay.
bit of a different way of thinking
Yeah.
about fertilizer.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes you away from the traditional NPK that people see,
Yes.
and kind of puts you more towards, yeah, like we're adding nutrients back into the soil that bacteria and fungi can break down and then return to the soil. So
Right.
that's where it's confusing for a lot of people is they ask, are the nutrients available right away? And it's like, no, it's a little bit different. It has to be decomposed, which takes time.
Hmm.
And the bacteria and the fungi are what primarily are going to take nutrients from the soil that's already present and take it to your plants. So it's kind of a two-in-one where you've got the
Right.
fast release of the microbes, breaking the nutrients down, feeding your plants 24/7, and then the slow release of the organic matter that's breaking down and releasing those nutrients over time.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, houseplants typically people are, buying like sterile soil.
Yeah.
It's like we're taught to, we don't want anything bad. You want to make sure you're not
Hmm.
using your outdoor soil, right? Right from the
For
beginning
sure.
when you start gardening. You
Yeah.
don't bring the soil inside. You want to have sterile soil, good quality soil. And there's not a lot in Canada. Well, I can speak to Ontario anyway. Not a lot of choices with soil,
For
is
sure.
there?
Yeah.
Like
Like
potting soil for
affordable ones.
houseplants.
Yeah, not a lot there are, but they're expensive. And
Yeah.
I've always just made my own just
Yeah.
because I like the process of it, and it's quite a bit cheaper to
Hmm.
source the materials for yourself. But yeah, there's not a ton of options. US, definitely a lot more for sure.
Right.
But yeah, the cost is the biggest factor for people. Like they don't want to spend, $30
Yes.
for a small bag of soil that's going to repot a few plants.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of where the fermentation comes into place, is that like I've brought soil from outdoors indoors before, and it actually did cause problems just because I had pests and all kinds of different things that I was bringing in. So
Yeah.
with fermentation, it's like a controlled environment. So you're really only getting specific microbes that are beneficial for soil and plants. So that's where fermentation is a nice process,
Hmm.
because it really does allow for some control, but it's a bit of a double-edged sword because you want variety, which is the key. That's where outdoor soil is so important. And just if you walk into a forest that's been undisturbed for a long
Yeah.
time, that's going to have the most diversity of any soil. And that's what you want to culture. So
Hmm.
that's kind of something I'm moving towards now is I find a lot of companies are playing the numbers game of they want to say they have the highest number of microbes in their
Right.
product, but it's only one or two types of microbes, whereas you should have thousands. And the
Right.
quantity isn't the most important part, it's the variety. So there are ways of taking forest soil and propagating it in solution to get all those microbes and use it on your plants. So that's kind of
Okay.
something I want to bring to the agricultural world as well.
Right.
just to re-diversify soil when it comes to microbes.
Yeah, yeah, that is great. And I love the concept. And this is what we do like outside, I'm recommending my clients um feed the soil and you feed the plants. Like you
Yeah,
don't need more soil. Like,
yeah,
everybody online is like top up with more soil or add more soil or bring in more
hmm
soil. It's like, well, you have the soil.
yeah,
It's the nutrients, we need to improve the nutrients. Sometimes you don't need more soil, right?
yeah, 100%. Like soil should get better and better over time. That's how soil is designed to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a good analogy is like a battery. So if you imagine your soil as a battery and your job is to charge it with minerals, which come from rocks, any kind of nutrients like meals. So kelp meal, alfalfa meals are great, flowers, oyster shell flowers, all these things you can add into soil that kind of charge that battery. And then they're there long term. And then
Okay.
the most important thing after that is how do plants access those nutrients? Because you can't just throw them in there. And that's what I tell people too, is your soil may already have tons of nutrients in it already. It's just, can your plants access it? Because plants
Oh,
evolved in water,
okay.
and in water, nutrients are already dissolved. So plants can absorb them easily. When they transitioned onto lands, they needed the relationship with bacteria and fungi in the soil to break down those nutrients that plants couldn't absorb to make them
Okay.
available. So yeah, even if your soil has tons of nutrients, if it doesn't have a healthy, thriving microbial ecosystem, then those nutrients are just never going to be available to those plants. So that's where, yeah, you don't need new soil. You just need to charge that battery, get the microbes in there, and just let it function as an ecosystem. And that's kind of it. Compost is a great option too. So I always tell
Hmm.
people, top dress of compost, you get your
Yeah.
organic matter plus your microbes.
Quality
Organic
compost. Yeah.
quality compost, local compost is pretty
Yeah.
key too,
Hmm.
because everywhere is a different microbiome. So where
Yeah.
you are, your microbial ecosystem is going to be different from mine. So if you can find a farm close to you, those microbes are going to be more adapt to pests and disease in your local area.
Right.
So that's where local compost is pretty key.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just how soil should function. And organic matter and microbes are the two pieces of the puzzle. And if you can master those, then you can grow literally anything anywhere on the planet.
Right.
Yeah,
Are your products considered organic?
they are. Yeah. So we only
Yes.
use
Okay.
organic ingredients.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything I source is as local as possible and organic. So they are considered organic. They're just not registered organic.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, that's a huge
registered.
process. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
actually not too bad. It's just
Oh.
expensive. So
Mm.
it's more of it's a marketing stamp. That's it. So I've talked to the board before and they said you can, market your products as organic as long as you are using organic ingredients and you can verify that. If you want this stamp on your products that's strictly for marketing, then you can pay us $1,200 per product.
Per
So
product.
that's kind of what it is at this point.
Mm.
Same with MPK, like they're just marketing tactics more than anything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And for those who don't know, so NPK stands for nitrogen, um, phosphorus,
Phosphorus, potassium.
potassium. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yes, and those are commonly, we nutrients that most all plants, and depending on the number, fertilizers. You
Yeah.
know, that's something that when you see the numbers on fertilizers. Or like even for lawn, right? Lawn
Yep, exactly.
fertilizers and houseplant fertilizers, any type of fertilizer, you'll have those three sets of numbers. And we've all come to know, you high first number, high middle number, all have a
Hmm.
reason.
Exactly.
But that's synthetic. That's how synthetic things are monitored,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and it's a
And
bit deceiving. Like it's kind of deceptive
yeah,
because it's people see a higher number and they think that's obviously going to be better, but you're not necessarily getting all that into your plants.
right.
With synthetics, like you're getting a small fraction of those nutrients actually into the
Mhm.
plants.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a bit deceiving, and that's where it kind of becomes more of a marketing thing. Even in
Yeah.
shared nurseries, we just had a call this morning with the managers, and one of them mentioned that someone had come in and asked, where's the three numbers on the dry fertilizer because we don't put it on there. And it just makes them more skeptical if they don't see it, even if they don't really know what it means. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a
Interesting.
tough one.
Interesting. And so what you alluded at the beginning to a new business partner. Is that the new relationship with Sheridan Nurseries?
So it's kind of a mix actually. So we've got a new business partner I'm working with. His name is Lexi.
Okay.
And he's out of Toronto. So we met through a mutual friend named Maria that used to own a plant shop down in Mississauga. And he was starting a business called Ryzome, and that's what he's doing now. And his goal was to take construction waste and turn it into plant fertilizers. So whether it's, drywall from, a demolition that someone's doing, they can take that gypsum and they can make it into a fertilizer. So they can basically
Okay.
grind it down. Bricks that they take from buildings, they can grind down and take the minerals from that. So he's trying to repurpose any kind of waste streams from construction into soil amendments.
Okay.
That's the goal with his business. So we chatted last year for a little while just about BIOS and how it works and trying to give him some advice. And then
Hmm.
he mentioned that he had a contact at the Toronto Zoo, so the digester facility there,
Yes.
and that he was going to go do a tour of it and asked me if I wanted to come. And I was super interested. And we did the tour together. I saw a huge opportunity with the
Mhm.
fertilizer, the digestate they had, like the leftover from the fermentation is a beautiful fertilizer. And I said, I can definitely do something with this. And over time, we just kind of agreed, do we want to collaborate on this product? And, put our heads together, take advantage of this relationship. And that's kind of where it led now. So we did our first co-branded product a couple months ago, which is
Okay.
the new liquid fertilizer.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So the partnership is it's great. He's super smart, very
Mm.
driven and motivated to make a difference in the world of agriculture, which is perfect.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been going very well so far with the
I
liquid
love
fertilizer.
how like minds you find each other, right? We
Yeah,
all, I'd
exactly.
like to think that.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
and that was one of my questions was, what is the difference between the new liquid one and the original formulation?
For
So
sure.
aside from being liquid, but yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's definitely a big difference. So with the dry one, like I mentioned, it's not readily available, the nutrients
right.
that are in it. So even though it is a 3-2-2, those nutrients get dispersed over a long period of time. It's more so the microbes. Whereas this new liquid fertilizer, it's been decomposed to a point where those nutrients are readily available. So it's comparable to a synthetic fertilizer, where as soon as you use it, your plants are taking those nutrients up.
Wow.
So it's a huge difference because you can't really use our original fertilizer as a standalone fertilizer unless you have that battery charged. Your soil is healthy, you've got the nutrients in there. If you're using hydroponics or semi-hydro, which a lot of people use for houseplants now, you can now use this liquid fertilizer and sustain the health of your plants long term, which is great. Plus, it has the benefits of the bacteria, the fungi, the enzymes from the fermentation. So yeah, it's basically the same as the dry fertilizer, but the nutrients are available right away,
Right
which is
away.
great. Yeah, very
Right.
exciting.
So just a little segue, and I'm hoping to do a show on ZooShare.
Yeah,
But so if people don't know or haven't heard about that, so the Toronto Zoo, it's they have this little factory almost, right? This little system where
yeah,
they are collecting and reusing or food waste from the animals as well as food waste,
yeah,
you know, and that it's great, right? Then we know that that's being repurposed, and so that you were able to make that connection and be able to use that material,
yeah.
or as like a
It's
portion, like a kind of like a version of it, or
So yeah, basically what happens is they take the food waste, it kind of comes in like a sludge. So it's just
okay.
like it's food waste that is not usable anymore. No,
Hmm.
not for human consumption. And they put it into these tanks, they pump it through a piping system that pasteurizes it. So it kills all the harmful pathogens. And then they put it into a giant tank, which has these arms that kind of swim around in it,
Hmm.
and it starts to ferment in there, and the arms pull any of the like plastic bags or any garbage that comes with it out,
Hmm.
and then the liquid gets pumped into this giant dome building
Yes.
where the gases from the fermentation, the methane builds up inside the dome. They pump that into a generator and they burn it, and that produces electricity. And then the byproduct is this liquid, kind of nasty smelling liquid, to be
Hmm.
honest. It doesn't smell great,
No.
and they're usually using it for farms. So most of the time, big tanker trucks will come pick it up. They'll spray it on farm fields, and it's such a great way to reuse waste product. And that's kind of
Yeah.
the why I love that we're doing it. Is that
Yeah.
my goal has always been, how do we take waste that would go to a landfill and repurpose it into something that helps grow plants? Because that's how the world should work. We should be, any
Absolutely.
waste we
And
produce.
electricity, right? Like that's
Yeah,
another like,
100%.
whoo, we're using it to create energy. So
Yeah,
so yeah, so
it's
that is another
so cool.
byproduct. But that's a whole other show. We'll talk about the,
For
you
sure.
know,
Yeah. That's a fascinating one. Yeah, your son would be good
yeah,
for that for sure.
yeah.
But yeah, so taking that waste stream and really repurposing it into a valuable product. It's been tricky though, because the product that comes out of the digester, it's not very finely filtered.
Okay.
So we're still finding pieces of plastic in it, chunks of tin foil, stickers that come on your apples or your produce, makes its way through. And I know in the States they've been kind of buttoning down a lot more on digestate because there's digestate facilities all over the world. They're becoming more
Okay.
and more popular because
Digestate.
yeah, or
Okay.
anaerobic digester facilities or
Okay.
biogas facilities, another word for
Oh,
them.
okay.
Yeah,
Biogas, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And but they're struggling to get rid of it, the product. And it's just not
Really?
processed.
Yeah.
You'd think it'd
That
be
seems
easy,
shocking
but
to me.
yeah, and I think in the States they've had an easier time getting rid of it, but what's happening now is that farmers have reported after a couple of years of use that they have microplastics all over their fields, and it's
Mm,
actually been damaging the soil quite significantly. So they're starting to regulate it more heavily for the use.
okay.
So that's where we're coming in and we're trying to process it
Hmm.
in a cost-effective way. That's the biggest goal
Hmm.
because you can buy very expensive machines that can process it and dry it and pelletize it, but it's just not that functional for
Hmm.
us. So we're trying to filter it into like basically filter the plastics out of it. So any
Right.
microplastics left in it so that when people use it, they're not spreading plastics on their field because that's the opposite of what we
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
So
But that's a
that's
huge issue. Like they're saying, like even our body, like we
yeah,
have microplastics in our bodies now. And
yeah.
right. I mean, the waters, it's not just about plastic straws, right? I mean,
No,
it's
it's everywhere.
a bigger
Cutting
issue.
boards. People always
So
say like with
yeah.
cutting boards, you
So
can get like a credit card worth of plastic in your
yeah.
body every year using a plastic cutting board. So it's just so hard to avoid
It was
plastic.
so hard to
It's
convert my
nuts.
family to get rid of. I went on a mission to get rid of our plastic cutting
Yeah.
boards. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Yeah.
But finding something, yeah. So switching to wood, but
Yeah.
converting my family, they thought I was crazy. But I'm like, look at the dust. Like we're eating this dust.
So much
But
crap coming off of it.
that was just in the last year. So I think of, how much plastic we have ingested
Yes. And
inadvertently. You think you're doing the right thing.
yeah, it's so tough. And like I talked about that today in the call with Sheridan's the balance of sustainability versus convenience. It's
Yeah.
such a hard thing, especially with 8 billion people on our planet. You kind of have to sacrifice some of that sustainability sometimes, even with packaging our products. Like, do you want it to be shelf stable and last a long time? Well, then we're probably going to have to use a little bit of plastic in this product, unfortunately. So, and it just hasn't come far enough with compostable plastics that are like long lasting. That's the thing. And
Right.
there's so many other chemicals we consume, whether it's nonstick pans and all that stuff is in our water forever now, probably.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, it's so sad that,
Yeah,
even when we
and I
see,
find it sad that they're blaming, like, I would think that the microplastics in the soil for farmers is coming from a lot of sources, not just the biogas. Like, don't you agree?
it could be for sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure. It could be the packaging for synthetic fertilizers, depending if they're using dry or liquid.
Right.
Because if they're a liquid form in a plastic container, microplastics could potentially leach into that
Yeah.
liquid.
Hmm.
Um, and same with herbicides, pesticides, there could be microplastics in that. I don't know. That's a
Yeah.
great question.
Yeah.
But apparently the digestate's just causing a real issue. So I feel like we're kind of ahead of the curve with trying to process this in a
Yeah.
cost-effective way, which is great because we
And
don't
is
want
it
to.
on you to kind of fix, or is it something that ZooShare is also looking at?
So it's kind of on us. I think they've looked at it before, but the investment for them just doesn't make sense. And especially with the way they operate, they're a cooperative. So it's more so publicly owned. So
Right.
a bunch of like they would come to you and I and say, hey, do you want to publicly invest in ZooShare? And we would give them a small amount of money in exchange for a portion of that business that would pay out over time.
Okay.
So they just don't have the capital, I don't think, to invest in these technologies, which is
Yeah.
fair. They're so expensive.
Yeah.
They're energy intensive too.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, okay, we're producing energy, but how much are we spending to process this? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of the point where they want someone like us to come in, process it, make it commercially viable, especially if regulations start coming in for the use of straight digestate from the facility. Like they might say you can't actually use it straight from the facility anymore. It has to be processed first so that we avoid these microplastics and
Right.
contaminants. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we just switch to where do you do all this? Like, do you have a little factory or is it you're not working out of your kitchen anymore?
Still working out of the house. Yeah.
Oh, really? Out of the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I work out of the garage. So we make the fertilizer here, the plant soap here. We actually do have a barn at Lexi's father-in-law's place now. So he's got a
Okay.
barn on his property that we do the liquid fertilizer at because
Okay.
I'm not allowed to do it here. My partner
It's a
is
little
not a fan of the
stinky.
smell.
Yeah.
Thank you. So thankfully we do have a spot for that. And we're looking at the end of this year, how do we move into a space of our
Yeah.
own now and start producing, especially if we're going to move into commercial sizes of things, we
Yes.
really need some space. So I think this will finally be the year that it's out of the house, which is exciting.
Okay, well, that's good. That is
Yeah.
good. Yeah, most people your age are like fermenting beer in their garage, but you're
Yeah.
you're making plant
Fertilizers. Yeah.
fertilizer.
100%. Trying to change the world.
That's right. That's right. So that's cool. Oh, that's good to hear though that you are having that success. So the new product is called BIOS and Ryzome liquid plant
Yes.
fertilizer.
Yep.
Okay,
That's it. Yeah. So we call it plant food.
plant
Um,
food.
we're not sure if that's the name that we're going to stick with moving forward or not. It's just kind of a preliminary. Do people like this? Is this something people see a benefit in? And people definitely have. So
Yeah.
it's been great to see the feedback. And we've got a couple soybean farmers using it now as well to do trials
Okay.
on, which is
Okay.
great. And they're having really great success with it. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting new product. And it's nice to have somebody work with it on.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you find the time to find those cases, like people to test it out or willing to test it out? That must be part of like an interesting part of it too.
It is like I would say it's kind of fallen into our laps a little bit, which has been
Mm.
interesting. We haven't had to do a crazy amount of outreach.
Oh,
So
good. They're coming
Lexi,
to you.
yeah, Lexi had reached out to somebody named Owen, and he does a lot of organic farming. He makes a lot of his own products as well,
Okay.
and he's been testing on his soybeans. And then he had a friend named Murray who also grows soybeans that wanted to try it on his crop. So it kind of feels it's such a tight-knit community, it seems, that
It is.
if you find one person that really enjoys it and has success with it, then they'll naturally tell others in
Right.
their community. And that just seems to grow on its own. So it's, yeah, kind of been a beautiful simplicity,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
that's
great.
great. And I
Yeah.
would think that especially the newer generation of farmers, like the younger, you know what I mean, are looking
Yeah.
at those, not to knock the older generations, but you're used to using what they know, right? And doing it
Yeah,
how they did.
for sure.
Although people are wanting to know that we're doing better. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, it seems to be both, surprisingly. I kind of thought the same before. But Owen and Murray both are an older generation of
Oh,
farmers. They've
okay.
been farming for a long time, both
Excellent.
30 plus years, I think.
Okay.
And they're, yeah, at the point where we are tired of spending so much money on synthetics. So that's a big one too now is farmers are being so squeezed on their margins because fertilizer costs just keep going up. They're not actually making your soil better. So you have to keep using
Yeah.
more and then you have to use
Yeah.
more pesticides and it just costs them so much. So like, all right, we're done with this. We want to find a way that's one, natural, two, costs less so
Yes.
that we can make more money and make this more sustainable.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a switch through all generations. New farmers for sure, but old farmers that have a lot of experience,
Yeah.
they're wanting to change too, which is
Yeah,
exciting.
because the synthetics still, and that is the challenge, right? That they're using products that haven't improved their soil
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
how they regenerate that soil. I mean, I know like there's cover crops, there's different things that they do, like industry
Yeah,
things, right? But which then you back to the NPK, right? Like adding
for sure.
nitrogen to the soil,
Yeah,
by growing cover crops and things like that. But
exactly. Yeah. And that's what's coming up. People are becoming more aware of that. And yeah, it's a tough thing because synthetics were sold as not they weren't sold as a short-term benefit. They were just sold as you're going to grow way bigger plants than you ever could before, but it was only a short-term benefit. But then the problem is, I I, I think I compared it to opiates last time. Like you do it once, and then you're kind of hooked because now like that's just what you're used to. Um, and it's hard to get away from once you start using something for 10 or 15 years and your
Yeah.
livelihood depends on that.
Yeah.
And it takes time to convert. Like it would take, I would say realistically 2 to 3 years to really adapt new practices and be at a point where you're very little input cost. And there was an interesting conference I went to this year at the organic conference in Guelph. And there was a guy who farms in the States, and he's got about 1,000 acres that he farms on. And he
Okay.
said his input costs are $20,000 a year, which everybody in the room was just shocked by. They couldn't believe it because their input costs are so much higher than that. And
Oh,
it's
okay. So
because
20,000 is low.
20,000 is very, very low. Yeah, I know
Okay.
it seems like a lot,
Nothing to
but
compare it to.
yeah,
Yeah.
very low apparently. And just maintenance. So his whole thing was build that battery. If somebody wants to switch, we'll go in, we'll test their soil, we'll see what minerals and nutrients it's lacking. We'll add those in a natural form, whether that's rock dusts or kelp meals, things like that. Mostly minerals is going to be
Right.
the issue. So they're replenishing that soil with minerals in a way that's going to last a long time. And then they're implementing cover crops. So clover. One guy even asked, is like, where do you get your nitrogen from? Like clover. That's it. That's all you need. If you're doing a huge field of clover and you're chopping that down and shallow tilling that back in, all that nitrogen gets released back into the soil. You now have a replacement for your nitrogen fertilizers. So basically his only maintenance or his cost is seed to reseed clover every time. And then once every, I think you said 5 years, they'll do soil sampling again, check if they need to replenish any minerals, add that back in. That's it. So, but it does take time, but
Right.
it's simple. That's the thing.
Okay.
Um, and there's just a lot of misinformation out there,
Hmm.
especially with tillage. That's another one for anyone here listening that does no-till potentially in their garden or with cannabis growing. It's just not practical on a large scale.
Oh, okay.
And I used to always think it was. I was
Yeah.
always on the side of no-till is what you have to do if
Yeah.
you want to make a difference. But apparently, what it can do is it can actually compact the soil
Hmm.
and make it very difficult for things to grow. Whereas the guy who was speaking, I forget his name. I'll have to give it to you after, but
Okay.
very interesting guy. And he was saying that they just shallow till. So they won't take a huge till. They'll just shallow it so that they rip up the root system and kill the clover so it won't
Okay.
keep growing. And then that way it actually mulches it into the soil a little bit on the surface and it can
Which makes sense.
decompose.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Yeah, it's more kind of replicable to nature, where things are going to be burrowing and digging up soil all the time. So it's constantly
Mhm.
churning. And that way you're not disturbing deeper ecosystems where the microbes are thriving. You're not having to reestablish that. You're not releasing a ton of carbon with doing a deep till.
Yes. And I think that's
Um,
where the no-till came from, right? Was that more we
exactly.
dig the
Yeah.
dig in our garden, like, obviously big digging situations releases
Yeah.
carbon, but even everybody in the neighborhood digging, tilling with those little machines
It adds
is
up.
releasing carbon.
Yes,
So I
exactly.
think that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah, it was carbon and then the microbes because a lot
Hmm.
of your microbial ecosystems are in that first like 6 to 12 inches of soil. So when you're tearing that up every single year, the ecosystem that's been established over that 12-month period now has to restart. And the mycorrhiza fungi now has to create new strands of hyphae and make that relationship all over again. So with doing just that super shallow till, then you're getting the nitrogen back into the soil quickly and the minerals. Whereas with no till, it takes a long time for those nutrients to actually get back in because they're never really incorporated back into the soil. They're kind of just sitting on top, and that creates that matted layer. So it was interesting to hear that. It really changed my perspective of kind of, you know, no-till fanboy to just like, okay, what's practical
Yeah.
on the large scale and how do we actually get farmers to say, okay, I can do that. Like
Right.
I have equipment
Right.
to do that. You don't have to buy all new no-till equipment, which is expensive to plant your seed.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me it seemed like, okay, treat the soil like a battery, get your minerals back in, do your cover crop, your clover for your nitrogen content,
Okay.
and you're kind of off to the races.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
you can
do
stop.
that. I think we chatted beforehand and you mentioned the battery, right? The
Yeah.
battery thing so do that analogy again to help our listeners.
Yeah, so kind of if you imagine soil as a giant battery
Great.
and like your minerals and your organic matter and your microbes are the electricity that you charge that battery with. If you charge that battery with those things, then it can last a very long time
Mm.
and it will just keep pumping out energy for your plants to grow and thrive. And if you just kind of keep feeding that, like the nice thing is too, it's kind of a regenerative battery.
Right.
That's how it's designed. It recharges itself if you treat it properly. So if
Hmm.
you know, add your initial inputs, your microbes, your organic matter, your minerals, then as long as you keep adding organic matter back into that system, the microbes are going to digest the organic matter, create new minerals, and it just keeps that battery charged all
Pushes
the
the
time.
battery.
Yeah.
But that's where synthetics don't really charge the batteries.
No, they don't. So they synthetics, I used to think they killed microbes in the soil and kind of destroyed the ecosystem like that. But what happens is that when you have soil, it's full of microbes and minerals already. When you add a synthetic fertilizer onto that soil, it acts as a food source for microbes. So it actually feeds them, but it's
Okay.
like a superfood. So they become supercharged, super active, and their main job is to decompose organic matter. So then what they do now is they'd start decomposing organic matter at a much faster rate than they would traditionally. And because farmers don't practice adding organic matter back onto soil, then once all that organic matter is broken down, that's when die-off starts to happen. That's when your soil becomes more like a sieve instead of a sponge. And
Mm,
then when you keep applying those synthetic fertilizers, majority of them are actually just leaching through the soil into the water systems and not actually staying in the soil or getting to your
soil.
plants.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's where the damage starts to come, and that happens over that longer term period.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, you might see greater growth in the first 5 years of using the synthetic, but now once your soil is becoming depleted,
Hmm.
now you're going to have to keep using more and more to get those same results. And now you're kind of stuck unless you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
really make a shift.
And there's the opioid analogy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just bringing it back to a smaller scale in the house plants. So,
Yeah.
we buy a new house plant, you buy a new sterile bag of potting soil and you bring it home and you
Yeah.
plant that plant, but there's nothing in that soil really, right? It doesn't usually, sometimes they might say they come with, like, depends on how much you want to spend, right? That might come with
Yeah.
fertilizer in it. And most people will then, use the dropper and buy that synthetic, bottle with the liquid, to add something to their water when they're watering and
Yep.
pay attention to the numbers.
Yes.
Like we said, the NPK. But then again, we're getting the plant addicted to that synthetic fertilizer.
Yeah. Essentially, it's like there's always going to be microbes present in soil no matter what. They're
Okay.
just such a dominant species. They're in the air that we breathe. They're
Okay.
everywhere. And that's something I used to be misinformed on as well. And it's just all this stuff is so new, which is strange because it's been around for so long. Why we
Hmm.
discovering it again now? But so there's always microbes present. It's just whether or not you have it in a high enough concentration or a high enough variety. So that's where, yeah, like some soils can be generally sterile depending on where it comes from. If they're in a plastic bag that's been sitting in the sun for a long time, most likely
Mm.
it's been pasteurized or sterilized, depending on how hot that
Yeah, who
actually
knows,
gets.
eh? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's tough. Like you really want to make sure compost. That's why I tell everyone, like compost is
Compost.
queen. If you're going to
Hmm.
use everything, anything, like don't bother buying a product. And I even tell people this, like don't buy my product if you're doing a garden or like you want to keep things simple. Like go find local quality compost. It has
Yeah.
everything you need. That's it. And just
Hmm.
sprinkle it on top of your soil. That's going to inoculate it. That's going to add organic matter, microbes back to it. And that'll really fix a lot of soils, I would say for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So I
bag
can see your
soils, tough.
passion is changing from indoor to outdoor.
It is, yeah, which it kind of started as honestly. It's
Okay. Well, yes, with the cannabis, right? You were growing cannabis outside.
yeah, and then I just figured like the goal's always been education. Like how do I
Hmm.
teach people this because it seems like it's what we should learn in school. Like we should grow up understanding how soil works and how it
Yeah,
relates
where
to our
our food
body
comes
and
from. Yeah,
100%,
right?
yeah, how to grow our own food cheap. Like people don't know how to grow their own food anymore. And
Yeah.
it's like I want to teach people how to make fertilizers and pesticides now because I think it's something people should understand how to do.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it started as outdoor growing was the passion. Like, how do we really fix soils in an agricultural setting?
Hmm.
But it's hard to enter that space right away.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, where's a space that's lacking? Cannabis, super oversaturated with fertilizers and pesticides. Everybody wants to keep it as cheap as possible and they want to make their own products. Great, keep it there. Houseplants. People don't understand how
Yeah.
soil works. They don't care. They just buy bag soil. buy a houseplant. If it dies, whatever.
They go get another house plant, or
Yeah,
they say they can't grow. I have all my friends, right? Oh,
yeah.
I can't, I
I
have a
just kill
black
everything.
thumb. I can't keep plants alive. When it's
Yes,
really the market is set up for the plants to die so that you have to buy more
100%.
of them, really.
Yes, absolutely. Like even succulents, people come to markets or they buy succulents or cacti, and I'm like, hey, are you interested in any fertilizer? Like, no, I kill every plant, even cacti. I'm like, honestly, they're the easiest plant to kill because when you buy it from a garden center, they have it in potting soil, which doesn't make any sense. It's the worst soil for a cacti or succulent. So that's yeah, it's designed for your plants to die, so you have to buy more. That's why cars are designed like crap now because so you can
Want to
replace
buy
your car every
more?
few
Yeah,
years.
it's kind of
Consumption
that planned
problem.
obsolescence, right? Who would
Yep.
have thought that would be the case for plants, but it kind of
Yeah.
is.
It is for sure. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. Like the education is so important, and I figured houseplants was a good place to start because a
Yeah.
lot of people were getting into it at the time. The
Mhm.
education wasn't really geared towards houseplants because I don't think a lot of companies saw a market in it before. They always went for gardens and farms. So I
Right.
was like, all right, let's focus on this, and hopefully that transitions into,
Yeah.
gardens and
Yeah.
kids growing. Like there were 12-year-old kids coming to some of these plant shows and getting into growing plants, and I'm like, that is so cool. Like
Yeah.
this is
I
how
think
you
so
should start
too.
fertilizing and like this is how it works and you can carry this with you your whole life till
Hmm.
you're old and you can hand that down to your kids to say this is how you keep soil healthy and this is how you grow plants in harmony with nature and you can do it all yourself. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
Oh,
what I find fascinating. So I want to move back more into the commercial side of things, I think,
yeah.
and
Okay.
start making a big difference
Big
on that side.
difference.
Yeah.
Well, going back to your product, so tell me about the yucca extract.
Yes.
So that one's been around, but I don't think we talked about it last time you were on the show.
No, probably not. So it's a cool product. I've been using it for a long time. When I first started using it back in the day, it was only in a powder form I could find,
Okay.
and it was a real pain because it clogged all my sprayers. So bit of a nightmare. So it took a long time to find a good liquid one. Now you can find them all over. But
Okay.
what yucca extract
Yucca.
is or yucca, it's
Yes, yeah. But
interchangeable,
is
I
the
think.
plant
Yeah.
like, is it the same as the plant, the garden plant, or is it a
It is, yeah.
specific?
So it's just a specific variety. So it's
Okay.
called Yucca shittigera. It
Okay.
grows mostly in the southern US and Mexico, and it's actually the roots of the plant that they use.
Okay.
So ancient cultures used to use it for a very long time, still do, as a natural soap and shampoo, moisturizing agent. So they
Oh
would
my
just
gosh.
literally dig up the root, take it to a river, wash it in the river, and it would create tons of soap. So it's just naturally filled with saponins, which is in many different things, but it's just a
Yeah.
nice natural source of saponins. So yeah, I've been using it for a while. I like that it has natural sugars in it,
Okay.
which feeds bacteria and fungi in the soil. So it not only rehydrates soil, it also increases the health of your soil microbially, which
Okay.
is always the goal with any products I make. I want it to have more than one function.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
that's where yucca is nice. It's got the sugars, and then yeah, it's just a rehydrating agent for soil. So because it has high saponin content, which is just soap, it lowers the surface tension of water. And a good visual is if you fill a cup up of water, you can always fill it a little bit higher than the rim. It kind of
Yeah.
bubbles over. That's because water has high surface tension. Same with if put water on a freshly waxed car, the water is going to beat up and roll off
Hmm.
instead of lay flat. And the thing with plants is the leaves are naturally waxy. It's just like a waxed car. So if you're applying any kind of fertilizer or pesticide directly to the leaves, then it's not very effective because it just beads up and rolls off because leaves are
Okay.
designed to shed water. So if you want to make it more effective, you add something like yucca, which is a wetting agent or surfactant, lowers that surface tension of water so it can actually spread flat over a waxed surface and
Oh,
actually
okay.
adhere to it. So that way
Okay.
you get full coverage of pesticides and fertilizers.
Hmm.
And then when it comes to soil, if soil tightens up, especially peat moss, then these
Yeah.
soil particles become so tight that water can't actually flow into it because of
Hmm.
that surface tension. So
Hmm.
then you end up with dry pockets or just completely dry root zone, even though you
Yeah.
think you're watering your plants.
Yeah.
So what yucca, and that's what I've always used it for, is rehydrating peat moss and hydrophobic soils
Okay.
because it allows water to actually flow into those tightened particles and rehydrate them, which is
Okay.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
because
super
sometimes when you
effective.
have a large pot, like large potted plants in the
Yeah.
house, um, watering them, and the saucer fills up immediately with water, and
Yeah.
kind of wait for it to kind of the plant to take it back up again.
Hmm.
But you're right. You still will, you'll stick if you use a oh my gosh, what's the
Like
like not the
chopsticks.
yeah, no, either chopsticks or the little monitor that you stick
Okay, at the
in.
water monitor. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Hydration monitor. I'm trying, like,
Yeah.
the term is escaping in both of us, but to tell you whether it's, you'll find these dry pockets.
Yeah.
So that is good. So it helps disperse, makes the water
Yep. Just like hydrate your entire soil. That's
right.
it. So there's no dry pockets. And then that way your plants can actually absorb water and nutrients more easily again. And a lot of people, like I've seen tons of videos where people actually use chopsticks to poke holes in their dry soil to try and get it to rehydrate.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't work if
Mhm.
you're just using straight water, because it's just going to flow down those holes, path of least resistance, and flow at the bottom of your pot. So yeah,
Yeah.
Yuccas, I use it literally every single time I water, just
Okay.
because
So
I never have to
are
worry.
you
Yeah.
adding it to your water, or and also I was wondering when you said about the waxiness of the leaves, like, is it
Yeah.
can you use it as a foliar spray as well?
Yeah, so you can use it for both. So
Okay.
with soil, I just add it to my water, just a small drop, water your soil with it. That's it.
Oh,
And
okay.
with the foliar spray, same thing. Small drop in your water, spray your leaves, and it's going to clean them. So it's going to get any dust and dirt off them, which helps with photosynthesis. And saponins are a great like pesticide in a way, or
Hmm.
insecticide. So it
Okay.
actually disrupts the molting pattern. So they can't actually molt and grow to the next stage of life.
Okay.
So it can actually prevent pests from being on your plants. So it's a
Okay.
great
Could
kind of
that be
preventative.
something like, this is the time of year where we're kind of the beginning of September when we're recording this, where
Yeah.
people are not quite yet, we still have some warm temperatures, but need to start thinking about bringing their any tropicals or any house plants out that are outside,
Yep.
inside.
For
So
sure.
do you think that product would be good?
I would say actually, so the plant soap that we have would be better.
Okay, plant soap would
Yeah,
be
so
better.
the yucca I would say is more geared towards soil hydration, and then if you do want
Okay.
to make any kind of foliar spray is more effective. But if
Okay.
you're looking to target pests specifically for bringing
Hmm.
plants indoors, the plant soap will kill insects on contact. So it
Ooh,
is our natural pesticide.
okay.
Unfortunately, we can't market it that
As a
way.
pesticide, yeah. And it's
Yeah,
a
it's
good
very
segue.
difficult.
Don't you think we just did a
It
great
is perfect
segue?
segue. We did. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So
So, okay, so it's a plant
yeah,
soap,
yes, yeah.
but can be
So it's
used.
exactly, yeah. So it is an insecticidal soap. So it's a very potent insecticidal soap that we make using canola oil and herbs. So it's a pretty interesting process that I found a recipe for from a guy in Korea as well. And his whole goal was he wanted to make products that farmers could make on their own cost effectively, because they
Okay.
have such an issue with synthetic fertilizers and pesticides in the East, and government subsidizations that push them on farmers and just
Hmm.
causing a lot of issues. So he created this recipe, and I just amended it kind of to make it more effective, I would say. So what I've done
Oh,
is I take cinnamon, garlic, ginger, angelica root, and licorice root, and I deep fry that in canola oil. And so use organic canola oil, deep fry those herbs, pull all the pesticide properties out of them, strain it, and then make a soap out of that. And so what it does is it kills any soft-bodied insects on contact. So thrips, spider mites, mealybugs, aphids,
okay.
anything like that, it'll suffocate them to death.
Okay.
And then the herbs that are added in there are really great antifungal, antipathogenic. So it will actually prevent disease as well. And the nice thing about insecticidal soaps is they can penetrate fungi. So fungi acts the same as a leaf, where it's got a waxy exterior so that it can
Yeah.
shed water. And to actually kill fungal disease, you have to penetrate that, which the plant soap does. So yeah, great insecticidal soap and fungicide all in one. So I'd say if, yeah,
Right.
you want to treat pests and you want to bring plants in, make sure you're not taking anything else with you. That's
Yeah. So
the way
I
I
can
would
get,
go.
because currently I had a little bit of an infestation. I've increased my plant garden, my indoor plant garden in my home,
Yeah.
and currently I have most of them with a yellow sticky trap
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out which one is the culprit. So then I just gave
Fair.
up and said, like, so if I get some of the plant soap, I can get rid of my yellow sticky traps.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
Okay.
because it'll kill
Whew.
larvae too in soil, which is nice.
Excellent.
I just don't recommend using it in soil too often because it is
Okay.
very high pH. So it's about 11.3.
Okay.
So either pH adjust it, you could add like a little lemon juice to the water too if you want to use it in soil, or just use it sparingly in soil.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so it's been an interesting process with that because we came out with it and I originally called it a pesticide. and then
Okay.
ended up getting in trouble. So I
Yes.
had to switch the name, which is interesting in Canada. So
Yeah.
as long as
So
you,
how does it work as a soap? Is it also like, well, I guess you're cleaning, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's kind of yeah, like the idea is how do we sell it more as a preventative instead of a control? Because that's kind of where they draw the
Okay.
line is, if we say it's a plant soap, you can, wash your leaves of anything. And
Right.
then it kind of worked out well because we sold it as a pesticide first, so we have reviews from people that it kills pests. So even if we
Oh,
change the name, the reviews let you know how it actually functions.
okay.
And that bypasses any issues, which is interesting. So it's all just about what's on the bottle. So if you have
Right.
anything to do with killing pests in the bottle, it's a no-no. But if you're bag, then it kind of bypasses that, which is strange. And the process of getting a pesticide registered is not a simple one in Canada.
No, or inexpensive, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was they quoted about $300,000 per product. And that's if you're using
Per
an active
product.
ingredient
Yeah.
per product. Yeah. And that's if you're using an active ingredient that's already registered.
Hmm.
So our liquid sulfur, for example, that's a sulfur fungicide. That's what its intention is. Um, and I looked at getting it registered, and you have to use sulfur, the active ingredient that's already registered through PMRA, is the pesticide registration company in Canada. And I tried to call these companies. One of them wouldn't sell it anymore. The other one, none of the contact information worked. So then if you can't find an active ingredient that's already registered, you have to register your own. And that's upwards of $1 million total to get active ingredient registered plus end product registered. And it takes 3 to 4 years to even get that on market. So it kind of pushes out, like the system's designed to push out small players. So it's kind of
Yeah.
saying, unless you're a multi-million-dollar business and you can sit on $1 million for 3 years, you're kind of shit out of luck.
Yeah.
And you kind
Yeah.
of just skirt under the regulation until you can afford to be a big player or give up, a ton of your margin to a big player to rebrand the
Yeah.
product, which I don't want to do because it's just what
Yeah.
everyone does. I want to make
Hmm.
something unique. Um, so yeah, it's kind of frustrating. And then with information, it's not shareable in Canada. So let's say you wanted to register an insecticidal soap. You have your own plant soap and you paid for all of the testing, all the environmental testing. They still do animal testing, which blows my mind. So you
Hmm.
pay for all of that. It costs you 300 grand. And then I come in and I say, hey, Joanne, I'm looking at making a plant soap as well. I'd love to piggyback off of all your documentation. Would you allow me to access that information? You could say no, and then I'd have to go pay for it all on my own. Whereas if you went to a country like Europe, they share the information equally. So
Okay.
you would kind of pay for that, and then you'd say, okay, there's 10 other people that want to make this. How do we divide this up? So everyone
Mhm.
shares that cost
In the
equally, and it's just
research. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just more fair and more open. So
Hmm.
it's kind of been discouraging in Canada, like having these safe unique natural products that really could
Yeah.
make a difference, but being kind of pushed out of the regulatory market of them.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the demand has never been higher for that, right? I think
Yeah,
people are looking for, are more aware and are looking for those types of products.
they are for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's great. I'm glad we can get the word out on the show and about the fact that even though it's a plant soap, it can still
for
be
sure.
used other ways. So I think that's a
Yes.
great thing
Yeah,
until the regulations, or something in the government changes.
for sure.
I notice on the website, so you have it as a concentrate,
Yes. Yeah, we got as a concentrate
and
and
a
a
ready to
pre-mix as
spray.
well. Yeah, so we do the ready spray as well because you have to use soft water for the plant soap. So
Okay.
that's kind of the challenging thing for some people if they don't buy distilled water or reverse osmosis is you can't use hard water with it because it reduces the effectiveness of it so much.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we just sell it in the ready spray form if people don't want to do that. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. That's good. And then plant probiotics is another
yes,
product you have. So
yeah,
I'm figuring you, I think of when we think of probiotics, right, we're all thinking of like yogurts and different things like that. But it is part
exactly.
of the fermenting, right? Which is what you were doing.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to call it that because I did want people to have that visual. Like, okay, I take
Yeah,
probiotics
yeah.
for my body. Is it the exact same? And it really is. I always tell people it's like kombucha for your plants. So
Oh, good
that's ex
analogy.
thank you. Yeah, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's literally it. Like your soil is your stomach. it acts the exact same. It takes in nutrients, it digests them, it releases those nutrients into your plants or into your body for growth. So if you add a probiotic to your soil, it does the exact same thing. It just helps break down nutrients that are already present. It helps protect your plants from disease as well, because anything that tries to attack your roots, generally bacteria and fungi in the soil will prevent that attack, which is great. So if you have a healthy microbial ecosystem, it breaks down nutrients and fights disease.
Okay.
So that's pretty much how the probiotic works. It just and you
Yeah.
can use it for a foliar too. And I always tell people your leaves are like your skin. So you've kind of got the analogy of soil is your stomach, leaves are your skin, and our skin is covered in bacteria and fungi that helps
Hmm.
prevent skin infections and different diseases. So if you spray your leaves with the probiotic, it does the exact same thing. So it kind of creates a shield of microbes on your leaves that will outcompete any other harmful pathogens.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hmm. So I want to talk about the sulfur as well, but so
Yeah,
all of it, like all of them seem like, what do we need every product? I know you want to say yes, but like
for
where
sure.
where, right? How do you know what you need? Like,
Yeah.
okay, my struggling, I think my plants are okay. I do a
Yep.
lot of starting root cuttings and kind of starting new plants. And
Okay.
then I
Yep.
find it's tricky getting that to convert, like you had mentioned earlier in the show, going from water to soil. And I
Yep.
never put like I just put water. I don't put any nutrients in that water. So should I
For
be?
sure. So you can, like, it's
Okay.
not a requirement, I wouldn't say. Like,
Okay.
because if you look at nature, there's no one adding fertilizers to soil in a forest.
Right.
So it's optional. Like, if you really want to see a big difference in growth, then for sure,
Yeah.
fertilizers are a great option to do that. And it's tough with houseplants too, because they're in such a small pot that it's hard to create a real thriving living soil. Whereas if
Yes.
you
An
have a
ecosystem. Yeah.
25-gallon pot, so much easier to
Yes.
recreate that. And lots of nutrients being cycled, lots of microbial diversity. So
Hmm.
yeah, with houseplants, a fertilizer is a great option, especially natural ones. So generally what I tell people is if you want like full spectrum coverage for your feeding and protecting, then I always recommend one of the two fertilizers.
Okay.
And I just tell people, would you rather apply a liquid or a dry sprinkle? Because some people just
Okay.
want to set it and forget it, sprinkle it on, not have to worry about it for a couple months. Some people would rather just add it to the regular watering routine, which is
Yeah.
perfect. So
Okay.
it's kind of preference at that point, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you're doing semi-hydro or something like that, the liquid fertilizer is where you need to be because you're going to get
Okay.
those nutrients right away.
Yeah.
Yucca is something I always tell people, like, just have it on hand. Like it lasts forever. You don't need a lot. And it makes it so that you can water less often. And you just know that the water's always getting to the roots. So that's a staple. And
I think
then the
that, and
plant,
you know what, from someone who talks to a lot of new people that are afraid, and even a lot of my friends are afraid, of killing plants and afraid of
yeah,
overwatering, underwatering. I think that's a real key. If they
for
know that
sure.
the water is getting and doing its job,
Yes.
I think it takes away some of the pressure.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's what everybody says. They're like, can't tell if I'm overwatering and underwatering because they look the
Yes,
exact same. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if your soil's hydrophobic and you're watering and you think you're overwatering, you're not going to water as much and then it's just going to dry out completely
Hmm.
and die. So yeah, the Yucca is great for that. Just takes that guesswork away, as well as bottom watering. I try and push that to people as much as I can. So I just fill up a bucket where I put all my plants in my sink with Yucca extract and liquid fertilizer and water and just let them soak because
Mm,
you know that the soil is going to be fully saturated.
yes.
And ideally, you fully saturate soil every time you water.
Hmm.
You don't want to just put a few drops on it and expect them to
Yeah.
grow. You really want to saturate it. And that's where having the right soil comes into play, making sure
Yeah.
you have proper aeration and drainage, especially for succulents and cacti, not just a potting mix. And then I would say the plant soap, because then you kind of got your feeding, your supplementation, hydration with the yucca, and now you've got your pest protection that you can
Okay.
use once a month as a preventative, and then you'll never
Excellent.
have any issues because it's
There we
always
go. We
used.
created a bundle. There you go.
Exactly. The trio, the perfect trio.
There's your
Yeah.
trio.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we do it outside? Like, so what can we use? Because I think of outside, that is a huge thing. Like I'm
Yeah.
installing gardens for homeowners, and I have to teach them that um, the signs of, and this drought was challenging, the signs
Hmm.
of not enough water are equal to, or very similar to not too much water. I
Yep.
actually have I've done a video. I actually started giving them wooden spoons. and
Interesting.
and that was my kind of a gimmick, but it
Yeah.
works in that, but because it's not what you see on top, it's not what you pour, right? And
Yeah.
the whole watering by a hose, one person could stand there and have the patience for 5 minutes, and another
Yeah.
person, they think it's a long time, and it's 30 seconds. Nothing got wet.
100%.
Like the roots
Exactly.
aren't wet. So I've said, stick it down, make sure the water is penetrating the roots.
Hmm.
So yeah. So do you see that product being available, like, maybe in a larger packaging, or have you
Yeah.
thought about that at all?
Yeah, definitely. So I've had lots of people asking, especially for the Yucca, because people love it. So I think offering maybe a 1 liter size in that is the next step that we want to go, because we do the 30 mil, which is quite small, but you only need a half a mil per liter or a quarter mil per liter. So
Yeah.
it goes a long way.
Yeah.
But yeah, if people just want more of it, they love it. So bigger sizes, definitely the next goal. And then we can offer it at better prices too.
Right,
Because
right.
as we
And I don't
transition
think
to
you need it
gardening,
forever, right? Like the new people that are
yeah,
starting a new garden, like new plants newly installed, you
yeah.
just need it to get you right. And then once the plant's a little bit more established, watering is a bit more straightforward.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I'd say the dry fertilizer, like our original fertilizer, I
Mhm.
generally honestly don't recommend that for gardening
Okay.
because it's just not like financially practical. I just tell people
Yes.
like go buy a $10 bag of compost and
Hmm.
don't spend $90 on a 3 pound bag of fertilizer that, you know, isn't
Yes.
gonna do what the compost is gonna do. So that's where the liquid fertilizer is nice. Like we can sell it at such an affordable price that it makes synthetics not even a choice anymore. I don't think that's the goal.
Oh,
Like we want
good.
people to look and say, okay, we could buy Miracle Grow for this much, or we could buy a natural option for the same price. Like,
Yeah.
why don't we just do natural? So yeah, the liquid fertilizer we're looking at doing commercial sizes in. So we're gonna
Okay.
offer starting soon 1 liters and then a gallon, 5 gallon, and then 1,000 liters totes. We're gonna throw up on the
Excellent.
website.
Okay.
So that'll kind of be like I see the yucca extract, the plant soap, the sulfur fungicide or liquid sulfur, and the liquid fertilizer being very good for the garden and like
Okay.
affordable, not
Affordable.
spending a crazy amount of money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Let's just touch briefly on sulfur. So I've been doing
Yeah.
this a long time. I'm very familiar with NPK.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody outside talking about sulfur.
Which is wild.
Isn't
I
it?
so surprised because they're starting to add it to a lot of NPK labels now.
Are
So
they?
I
Okay.
think in the next couple of years you'll start seeing like now it's going to be NPKS or like hyphen S. Yeah. So a lot of
Okay.
companies now are already doing it because they're realizing how much of a difference sulfur actually makes for plant growth
Okay.
and the utilization of all of the nutrients, especially the macro ones. So I had originally made this, and the recipe was as a sulfur fungicide, not as much a supplement, because sulfur is the best natural fungicide on the planet. It's been used for thousands of years. Fungi never builds up a tolerance to it. The biggest issue is how do you liquefy it? And right now, any company that sells liquid sulfur, it is a lime sulfur, generally, is what it would be
Yes.
called.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's because to melt sulfur in water, it has to be above the boiling point of water. So then you have to add something like lime, which allows it to go above the boiling point to actually melt that sulfur. So it's very energy intensive and lime is corrosive. So is sulfur, but lime is heavily corrosive and not
Hmm.
great for soil. So it
Hmm.
causes a lot of issues. And with this recipe, it's just a simple chemical reaction of using sodium hydroxide, water, and sulfur. And
Okay.
that actually allows that temperature to get high enough that it can melt that sulfur in water. So we eliminate the need for lime, which is great. So it is just a pure liquid sulfur, fully water
Hmm.
soluble, not suspended. So
Okay.
much better for soil and plants. And then when I started doing more research, I was like, okay, sulfur is actually unreal for plant growth. And they're doing a lot more research on it now. And yeah, it just helps with the uptake of all of the nutrients. It helps develop terpenes, which is the flavor and the medicinal benefit of all fruits and vegetables, anything we eat and consume.
Okay.
So it's pretty fascinating. And then it adjusts the pH of soil too. So if people do have a high pH and they need to reduce it, liquid sulfur is a great option for doing that.
Okay. And I correct myself. I said I haven't seen it. Well, I've heard of like the dormant oil, like, the dormant spray that
Yeah.
often we recommend people for insecticide prevention, especially in fruit trees, the dormant
Hmm.
oil and the lime sulfur. So that's where I've seen it. But,
Yeah.
more in that realm as opposed to
like a
together.
supplement kind of.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
a
for sure.
supplement.
Yeah,
And
no,
then
yeah,
that would make sense. And that's probably why lime has been used because that product's been around a long time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so mostly, yeah, it's mostly been used as like elemental sulfur for adjusting the pH of soil or
Mhm.
as a fungal treatment.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. So yeah, it's really interesting to see more people now recognizing sulfur as an amazing macronutrient for plants.
Okay.
And yeah, just a great natural fungicide. So that's something we've been making for about 6 months now. And it's a really cool product. Got a bit of a stink
Oh,
to it, but
yeah.
works really,
Mhm.
really well. Yeah, we got a lady actually using it for fruit trees now, like all through the season, and she's having great
Okay.
success with scale.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. That is really interesting. So do you have a sign up sheet somewhere? Like, are you looking for people to volunteer their gardens to do testing? So that's kind of a
Yeah,
cool, a
100%.
cool
Yeah, like if
thing.
anyone wants to do testing, please reach out. More than
Okay.
happy to give you samples of anything you want to try
Yeah.
and get your feedback to see how it works. Because it's just, if we can have that feedback, it helps so much, especially with the new liquid fertilizer. It's really something that we want to get out there. And it's just something I see such a huge opportunity in for helping people grow naturally and just
Yeah.
reusing that waste. So the more feedback we can get on that, the better.
Okay.
And especially with food, like right now we're trying to understand, does it increase protein content
Hmm.
in beans? Because if beans fall under a certain protein percentage, then they get mixed in with beans that get sent to the US and other countries as a lower value product, and they get much less money for it. And so now Canada's trying to find products and companies that are trying to increase the protein content of beans so that they can stay in the Canadian economy. Farmers can get paid more money for it.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's one thing we're trying to find out now is, which is
Yeah.
great with these soybean farmers because they have
Okay.
tests.
Okay.
It wasn't what we planned on, but it just kind of worked out that way.
Excellent.
Yeah, so the more testing and results we can get, just the more we can push this out and just make it a
Hmm.
viable option instead of synthetic. So yeah, if anyone's down to test, let me
Okay,
know.
that's good to know. All right, so we're looking. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm interested as well. And food, I think people struggle. Really, the outside fertilizing, I always recommend compost,
Yeah.
but it's hard to know or manure. But the commercial things that are at big box stores,
Hmm.
is it good? Isn't it good? Compost or mulch is a whole other story,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I definitely don't advocate for that. I want it to be more organic and do the whole premise of feed the soil every year,
Yeah.
as
Absolutely.
opposed to adding more soil and more, that type of thing. But
Yeah.
it's tricky because they're not quality stuff isn't easy to find and it's not super convenient
No.
for homeowners. There's some bag your own places and
Hmm.
things like that, but it's not convenient. So,
No. It's and I experienced that this year. I built two raised garden beds in the backyard and they
mhm,
were way deeper than I expected.
yeah.
They're probably 4.5 feet deep.
Yeah, you didn't need it to
Um,
be that deep.
No,
Yeah.
I love it though. I was like, I want to grow like really big carrots
Yeah.
and just I want that soil space. And when I finished them, I was like, okay, I need like 6 yards of soil. Like, how much is that going to cost if I go buy the big yellow bag or the
Yeah.
pre-mixed triple mix soils? It was like 2 grand. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
have 2 grand just to spend on soil. I'm gonna make my own because I know how to do that. I think it's better anyway. So
Hmm.
if anyone is confused by that and they don't want to spend that much money, Hugo Culture is a great option.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I did with
Filling the
this.
base with the branches and logs and things, right?
Exactly, yeah. And there's
Hmm.
so much free wood out there. Like I just
Yeah.
went on Marketplace and there's people just trying to get rid of wood. So you just go pick it up from their property. They're happy. You're happy. You get it for free. You can fill up the
Hmm.
base of your beds
Yeah.
with that. And then there's lots of free compost out there. Like we have a family friend that has a horse farm and
Hmm.
they have fresh compost. They're just trying to get rid of for free. So
Yeah.
I take my dad's truck down there. We load it up. We got free compost. There's a mushroom farm, Monaghan's, which
Hmm.
is right down the road from here. They give free compost all the time. So there's so many free resources out there that you can build soil with that are
Yes.
actually 10 times better than any bag soil you can buy because you're getting such microbial diversity, your organic matter from the logs that are going to break down, decompose over time. So you just have to be a little scrappy, a little creative.
Yes. Yeah. You
Um,
do have to be a bit creative. And
yeah,
not, and there are the keeners out there. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. There are the keeners, but sometimes they just want what's the easiest, and
yeah.
that is challenging because then I'm like, well, then, you get what you put, you know what I mean? You get what
Yeah.
you put in, really.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the
And you have to pay for
success,
convenience. It just kind
yeah.
of, yeah.
So I wish more quality products would be available, more readily available. And I hope that
Yeah.
this movement to buy Canadian and to develop more in Canada,
Hmm.
I hope it really leads to that we
Me
can
too.
stop importing, insufficient, products or,
Hmm.
products that really aren't beneficial,
Yeah.
although they're convenient.
Yeah. And just cost more. And I'm hoping
Yeah.
that happens in Canada with the waste stream too. Same with the liquid fertilizer. Like, let's take waste because soil shouldn't cost a lot to produce. Like,
Yes.
it's just putting waste back into it, letting it
Yeah.
decompose, and that's what soil should be. So,
Yeah.
taking advantage of that hopefully makes
And
it
even when
more
you said about the
available.
microplastics, like we're buying bags of soil in
Yeah.
plastic. So of
Yeah.
course we're going to have plastic in our
100%.
soil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. No, it's crazy. And like they
Yeah.
should be packaging it in aerated bags. Like put it in a
Mhm.
burlap sack or something that it can
Something.
get oxygen, it doesn't get anaerobic and stinky and
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know, it's cheap.
I know.
That's the thing. Like even when I was looking at packaging in the beginning, like compostable packaging, 10 times
Yeah.
more expensive than plastic. And it's hard to be like that extra margin would be nice, but I don't want to
Yes.
go down that road of using plastic. Like it's just not,
Right.
it doesn't
I
make
know.
sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's kind of contra, like they just don't, they're opposing views really.
yeah, for sure.
Have you thought of so the one thing I follow another like organic like a company in Canada who's talking to they're reducing their products to be more like as concentrates because
Hmm.
for shipping, right? So again,
Yeah.
you're spending a lot of money shipping like when you said about the like
Yep.
the plant food, it's already but we're shipping water, right? So
Yeah.
it's heavier and takes up more space. Have
Exactly.
you considered something like that, making it more of a concentrate? Well, you do have the concentrate, but then it became the water issue, right? The soft water.
Yeah. So pretty much
Sorry.
everything, no, it's okay. Everything I make is basically concentrate.
Okay.
So I don't love to do pre-mixed stuff because I feel like it lowers the value of it. It doesn't
Yeah.
last as long. So people are like, I gotta buy it constantly. And I'm like,
Yeah.
for sure, like just buy the concentrate. The plain soap's tough, obviously, because of salt water thing, but
Yes.
easily fixable. Like you can buy a 5 gallon jug of reverse osmosis for $5 and it's
Yeah.
gonna last quite a while. So, but yeah, everything's
Or you said
concentrate.
distilled water, right? That's
Yep. Any
yeah.
kind of soft water. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So,
yeah, and it's been tough. Like with the ready spray, ready mixed plant soap. This was the first winter we had shipped it, and it was freezing this winter all across North America. And I had so many packages that just exploded
oops.
because the water would freeze. And the
Mm,
concentrate's a little better because it has a lower freezing point, but the pre-mixed ones, just a no-go. They just expanded, the glass
oh
bottles
no.
broke, created such a mess. For anyone out there that doesn't understand shipping costs at the
Yeah.
scale of a business, like it cost us probably ten to $12,000 in replacement costs this
Yeah.
winter of trying to ship a ready spray product. So not a great learning experience. Well,
No,
great, not great
definitely.
financially, but so to be into, I don't know how we're gonna do it this winter. I think this winter we may just take the ready spray off and just sell the concentrate and say this
Hmm.
is all we can ship.
Yeah.
So concentrate's more ideal for that. And yeah,
Yeah.
weight is a big one for sure.
Yeah.
Shipping's more expensive than it ever has been.
Yeah.
So if we can reduce that, that's great. But yeah, a lot of people just want to sell a product that costs them nothing. Like it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's yeah, interesting. You can pre-mix something and sell it for not that much less than you sell a concentrate for. So
Right. Right.
why not?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just believe in giving people value for their money
Hmm.
and something that's going to last a long time. So that's why I like
Yeah.
concentrates better.
Oh, yes. So that's good. So and I think it's better for the environment, and that's something we have to start thinking about.
Definitely. Yeah.
And all our household products, like why are we buying water? Like
Yeah.
really, like
100% in a
everything. Not,
bottle.
there's cleaning, there's things in it, but really 90% water.
Yeah.
And why do we need that? So that's something I've been thinking, not just with my gardening things, but
Hmm.
household things. Been
Yeah.
thinking of more
It's a tough
aware.
thing too. Even glass bottles. Like I think
Mm,
glass has been marketed as a sustainable alternative to plastic for a long time. When I've been doing the research, because it's that always, I don't know, it's a balance. And glass takes a million years to decompose in nature.
mm,
Plastic takes couple of 100,000. So when you look at the grand scheme of things, plastic's actually going to break down faster than a glass
Really?
bottle will.
But won't can't we
So
recycle glass though?
we can, but the recycling system's so broken that it's just like a lot
Yeah.
ends up in
That's a whole
landfills.
other
So
show, isn't it?
it
Talk
is, yeah,
about
it's
them.
brutal. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. Well,
So
and again, I think where
tough.
other countries do is so much better.
It is, yeah, yeah. And some countries do none. South Africa, my family is from South Africa. They don't recycle. It's wild. You just throw it in the garbage. And so yeah, it's kind of sad. Aluminum is a good option. We're kind of looking at that for our larger size things.
Hmm.
Is aluminum is infinitely recyclable, which is
Okay.
great. It's light, much lighter than glass, which is
Hmm.
nice. So it's better for shipping. So I think that's kind of a good sustainable option until somebody comes up with a compostable bottle for liquid. That's
Yeah.
kind of where we're
Yes.
at.
Actually, I don't know when it ended up happening with this, but we do cruises
Yeah,
and, and I don't know how many water bottles, like, everybody goes through, you get
for sure.
water bottles
True,
everywhere.
true. Yeah.
Well, there was a period of time, and I don't know if it was it may have been a specific ship where instead of bottles, the water was in cans.
Interesting and smart.
And they said that because it was much more it was lighter for the
Yeah,
like the weight of the ship, like the weight,
true. Yep.
which all the repercussions of heavier ship, right, and
Right. More fuel.
fuel and things like that, as well as the recyclability of it.
Yeah.
So I
It's
thought that
interesting.
was fascinating, and I'm surprised that we're not seeing that kind of happen. I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
started on bottled water. Like in Canada, we do not.
Oh,
Nobody needs. Like I
nobody needs
want
bottled
to.
water.
Nobody
Yeah.
needs bottled water. I want to take it out of people's grocery
Yeah.
carts. Don't even like.
Same.
Again, that's a whole show. It just drives me nuts
Yeah.
that people think we need
Agreed.
bottled water. Certainly, if you're at an event, you know what I mean. Okay, but at home, like who?
Yeah. And there's so many steel water bottles you can buy that are just reusable now. And like,
Absolutely.
it
But
doesn't
it's a
make any
scam.
sense.
Like the
It
companies are,
is.
it's our water
Yeah. I know.
and they're bottling it up and selling it back to you. Like it,
Yeah. I see that in Guelph now too. Like they have a number on a billboard that says our outside water use in Guelph. And it's at a 1 for most of the summer. And now it's at a 2. So we're bringing water in from outside sources where Guelph has such a huge supply of natural springs, but Nestle is positioned in Puslinch and they take so much water out of it
yeah.
that we have to use outside sources. And it's like, why are we doing that? Why are we selling
Why
our
are
water
we
to a
doing
company
that?
that's putting it in a plastic bottle, that's selling it back to us when like we should be using that water for ourselves or just
Absolutely.
it
Oh
doesn't
my
make any
God. I want
sense.
to do,
Yeah,
can we do a water show? Like that,
yeah, I
like
would love
any research when you're
to.
ready for that, let's,
Yeah,
because it is, yeah, I've just dabbled in the research of that
yeah.
and the mind game that they have played, the
Hmm.
marketing, like
Oh,
that is
it's
just all
wild.
marketing.
Marketing is everything.
Yeah.
It's yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, double-edged sword. It'd be so
Double-edged
good.
sword
It'd
for
be
sure.
so bad.
Yeah.
Someone that might be good to have on the podcast is I used to see it all the time when I worked in Laura, and it's called Save Our Water, I think is the company.
Okay.
They're all about the Nestle stuff and how much water they're taking and just the corruption around it. So they'd be fascinating to have on. I'm sure they'd have a ton of good
Okay.
information. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you. I will, because
no problem.
I had kind of put feelers out, of like where do you so I'm full of ideas, but it's like
Yeah,
trying to find it, right?
for sure. Yeah, that'd be a good
So
resource.
thank
Yeah, that'd be
you.
great. Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
And I also want to know, are you familiar with so David Smorenberg from the Upper Canada Organic Products? Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not
No.
actually.
Okay. So he is I mean, he's also a family run, and that's where I learned a lot about the pesticides. So he is, it was one of those things, one podcast led to another.
Yeah.
I was talking with Guy Ruccolo, who owns Blue Star Nursery,
Okay.
and he was talking about this garlic juice extract that he cannot keep on the shelves, right?
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
that led me to having a show with David. And so he did talk about how challenging it was and all the hoops similar to you that he had to jump through to
Yeah.
get the garlic spray uh, use for a pesticide for, the
Hmm.
mosquito control. And it works and it's
Yeah.
amazing. And
My dad
and
has
it
it.
kind of came, and that's where it's like he had no stake in the product. He just said, I can't keep it on the shelves.
It's amazing,
The
huh?
customers love it
Yeah.
and you don't hear much about it. And it's nothing wrong with your backyard smelling like pizza for a couple of hours, but
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
It's intense. Yeah.
so I just wonder, you two might be a good, connection
That'd be great.
to
I'm
talk
definitely gonna
about
reach out to
because
him.
he's also doing for some other lines and things like that. So I had
Yeah,
reached out to him to have him on again, and I haven't heard back, but I think my timing wasn't great at the beginning of the season.
fair.
So
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
busy
so
time for
anyway, so
sure.
yeah, so I did want to talk, and he knew how hard it had been as family-run business to register, develop, and distribute
Yeah,
the least toxic pest control products in Canada. So
interesting. Cool. I'm gonna check him out for sure.
which is
I'd love to
definitely
pick
your
his brain.
goal as well. And I
It is,
want to
yeah.
do, it's just a little podcast, but I want to elevate, what you're doing for the industry, for homeowners. And
Yeah,
I think every little business and every little drop that we do helps,
it
right?
does so much. Yeah, it's crazy how things spread. I always had to remind myself of that starting the business because
Yes.
it's so hard to see all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just not growing as fast as I wanted it to. But then I'd
Hmm.
always have to remind myself, I'm like, if 10 people bought it, that's maybe 20 people that know about it now, and then 40
Yeah.
people, and then it just does grow in the background. And then eventually you can kind of say, okay, that actually did work.
Yes.
Yeah, everything helps. Like no
Yeah.
matter how
That's
small it
great.
is, it leads to something. And a cool example that I saw years ago, there's a guy that was just making videos for fun and no idea what he was talking about, completely forget, but it was just him and a camera in a computer chair at a desk. And he's like, I was getting no views, like a couple hundred people would see my videos, but Oprah's assistant had saw one of his videos and really liked it. And she ended up having him on the show, and it just changed his career, going from having like just little views, not a lot of people seeing his things to, somebody finding
Yeah.
and appreciating it. So it just takes one
Hmm.
person out of that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And that happened to you too, because you said you are now at Sheridan Nurseries. So in Ontario,
exactly.
that's a
Yeah.
big
Huge.
player in stores, in household, or all kind of gardening plants,
Yeah.
and indoor and outdoor.
So we had I'd honestly been trying to get in there for a while because when I first started BIOS, I did a market at Sheridan Nurseries up in I think it was Oakville.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, I really want to try and get my products in here, but I know they had their own house brand of fertilizers. And the manager was like, I don't know if it's fit, honestly. And then I remember at that market, a guy that is in the plant space that makes accessories. He came into my booth and basically told me my labels were crap and he couldn't understand what it was. And I was kind of discouraged and I was like, all right, I guess I got to figure this out. So I got all my labels redesigned by a graphic designer and it definitely took a different shift in the business. But yeah, a couple of years later, someone who worked at Sheridan Nurseries has been using our products for a long time and they love it. And then they brought in a new, I think she's like an operations manager. And she's just trying to change things up and bring in more natural local products, which is great. So yeah, the staff recommended us. She reached out, and now we are officially in all 7 locations, which is awesome.
Excellent. So that
Yeah, it's
is very
exciting.
exciting. Of
Yeah,
course, people can buy direct as well, so
yeah,
you make more money
100%.
that way, but buy direct. But if it is convenient when you are shopping, they
Yeah,
can look for your products in the store.
yes, yeah, I definitely recommend if you're close, go buy local. It helps everyone out, which is great. So yeah, I love that both options are available. You can pick up from my house or you can grab it from Sheridan. They've got the plant soap, the yucca, the liquid plant fertilizer, and the dry fertilizer there. So that's what they stocked kind of in the first part.
Okay.
And if everything goes well, then we'll get all the products in there. And Lexi's got some
Excellent.
really cool products as well that he's working on. So he's got biochar that he's working on right now, a rock dust so that people can charge their soil batteries with the minerals, and wood vinegar, which is quite interesting.
Really?
Yeah, so it's used by, I think it's called pyrolysis. So basically like distilling smoke. So it's like liquid smoke
Oh, okay.
and a really amazing soil enhancer. They've got some really cool studies now of areas where there's wildfires and heavy rain. The farmers report huge increase in crop yield because of the smoke actually being precipitated down into the soil. So yeah, kind of interesting with wood vinegar. So those are 3 products that he's bringing out on
Okay.
his side of the business, Ryzome,
Okay.
and hoping we can integrate all of that.
Excellent. All right. And so that I was going to say what's next, but it sounds like you have
Yeah.
a lot next. Is there anything
Yeah.
else?
I think honestly, no, like product wise, I'd always thought about bringing in biochar and rock dust. So
Mm,
with Lexi doing that with Rhizome, it kind of works great for that collaboration.
excellent.
So we've kind of got honestly the perfect product line, which is always the goal. Like, how do we just
Okay.
have everything that people need to create organic living soil.
Yes.
So I think product wise, we've kind of hit it. Yeah, to that
Good.
point, like we're just kind of going to focus on getting it out into more commercial spaces and
Excellent.
just market. That's it. We got the lineup, so let's just get into people's hands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me here, and it's very excited to see your journey. I saw you right kind of from the beginning-ish, and
Yeah.
so congratulations on what you've accomplished. And
Thank you.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing your products at Sheridan, and I'm really excited about the liquid fertilizer. So yes, I'm going to get my
Yeah, it's
hands
really cool. I'm excited
on
for you to try
that.
it. And yeah, thanks for your support. I appreciate you giving me the space and the outlet and taking a chance on me when I was still just starting out.
Yeah,
It's
no, that's
such a great way
great.
to get information across, and I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks so
And
much, Joanne.
no, you're welcome. Yeah, and anytime you want to come back on and talk
Cool.
about anything, even like, more specific, anything that you're learning, happy to
Yeah,
have you, because I think it's a good way of getting information out. And
it
I
is
think
for
people
sure.
are doing a lot more listening to content, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're just listening, I think, than written these days. So yeah, so I think it's a good way to get
Yes,
information out. So definitely happy to have you back
it
anytime.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joanne.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Down the Garden Path as much as I did doing it and learning more about Aaron's products. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next time.